What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the Dad Bod God, and I am excited to have Jack Bonza coming back on the show. This is his fourth appearance on Shooting the Shit, and every time that Bonza's on, it's always a great conversation. It's always a great episode, so I'm excited to have him on. But before we get into that a great conversation, I need to take a quick second to tell you about healthvape.com. Healthvape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine. There's no addictive or harmful chemicals in it either. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your day. So go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD and start living a healthier life today. But wherever you are finding us, I appreciate it. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please make sure you like, click, share, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell to stay notified. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps us reach a more broader audience, helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing people like you. So get to clicking. But ladies and gentlemen and everyone, without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Jack J. Bonza. Bonza, welcome back to Shooting the Shit, man. Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you too, Piers. There's so much energy in the intro.
Mate, it's always got to be energy, man. Like, you know me, I'm always hype. I love doing this shit, man. I love being able to talk wrestling with great people that I've been able to become friends with over the last couple of years. And, like having you on, Bonza, it's always good conversation. It's always, I love hearing your insights on the business and, what's going on in the world. But, man, I got to say, 2022, the year that PWA has had, it's got to be undeniable, honestly, like the best year that you guys have had by far. You guys have had some amazing accomplishments this year. How are you feeling coming to the end of 2022 and everything that PWA has been able to accomplish this year?
To me, it's just par for the course. Like it's silly, but like it was there was a plan to try and achieve something, to try and do something, and it was really hard. It was a really hard year for everybody, and a lot of people are like tired. But the idea of trying to create something bigger, this was just part of the plan. This is where we were always going to be up to. Now it's just you just got to keep working on getting to the next step. This year for PWA, what was the major stuff? There was King of the Metro. So we had the big show at the Metro Theatre with the Rumble and everything like that, which is a huge statement. Like sort of selling out, playing the Metro in the middle of Sydney is a huge statement. If you're a band, and so for a wrestling company to do it, it's sort of uncharted territory. And then we capped off the year with the we didn't cap it off, but we had the LFG tour. First time Coliseum, the prestigious Coliseum tournament's been held outside of New South Wales, which is sort of a statement for PWA being a national company. And then the Roundhouse tour, we had Shingo on the event, and then the massive thing, selling that out with that huge kind of show and everything like that. And then visiting Queensland as well as part of that. It's sort of like, it's huge, but these are just the steps that PWA is trying to take.
Did you think like that, the success from King of the Metro, could that be something that we see an annual event being held at the Metro, or even more regular events for PWA being held there?
Yeah, possibly. I think the Metro is more of a centerpiece. I don't know if that's where you run every show all the time. Just sort of the nature of that place. But PWA is getting back to the rebranded Max Watts at the beginning of next year, which is very exciting. Max Watts was always such a great venue for wrestling in terms of the atmosphere and just everything around it was so perfect. And I think they've just been shut for like 18 months. So it's renamed Liberty Hall now. It has new ownership, obviously. And then PWA is back there in January. So, yeah, hopefully that becomes PWA's home again. And then from there, we can build a base to go to other bigger things more comfortably.
Have you been able to have a sneak peek behind closed doors, like the changes that they've made to like the old Max Watts? Like
we did when we wrestled there for Tamashi.
yeah.
So Liberty Hall was where the Sydney leg of the New Japan Tamashi show was held. I think it was only the third event that had been back in that venue since it shut nearly 2 years ago.
How was the atmosphere there? Like, did it have that same feel?
Unbelievable. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, the only thing, like, it was bigger. Like, there were so many people in that room. It was nuts. Like, because there was a lot more standing room, so they could fit a lot more people. Plus, everybody on the stage, they couldn't even get a screen in there. Like that whole, there were more people in there than I've ever seen packed into that place before. So yeah, it's all the same, and it's only going to keep getting better. They just sort of doing little things. I think they're going to put a screen in there, and they're going to do some more things with the lighting, and then the burger joint next door, I think is sort of going to do like little cross promotional stuff with it. So there might even be more like after party kind of stuff at the venue too, which just adds to the vibe.
Oh, 100%. And you know, the Roundhouse show that you guys sort of like wrapped up, and I want to get into the LFG tour, but I just wanted to tap into like the Roundhouse show because that show was like something so spectacular. Like how everything just went off. Great. I mean, the cage looked like it was having a few issues there in the main event. And that's another question I want to get to later in the show. But as far as like that event, you know, did that live up to the expectations that you had?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a pleasure to watch everybody work. Like just to see when you can sort of elevate, when you elevate the environment, you elevate the show and stuff like that, and you see the same people who've been doing the same things, the production team, the floor manager, the wrestlers themselves, the ring crew, just everything sort of coming together. It was like a steam engine. It was just perfect how everything came together. It really wasn't once like selling the tickets is hard. Coming up with the promotion is hard. Doing like getting the venue stuff is hard, but when it actually comes to getting there on show day, it's not hard. Like it's work, and everybody has to work hard, and everybody's just tremendous at their jobs. But it wasn't a struggle, if that makes sense. Everybody knew what they were doing, and everybody accomplished it so perfectly. So the actual execution of the show on the day was fantastic. Even down to the special entrances and the special guests and all those different things happening. It just went perfect.
And you know, like that night you wrestled Shingo Takagi. How did you feel like that match went for you? Like, were you happy with it?
Yeah, pretty fucking good.
No, like, but like, did that match meet the expectation that you would have like set out, or do you put much expectation on yourself before a match like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no. There's a huge amount of pressure and work that goes into it, on top of doing everything else. So yeah, I'm tremendously busy. I mean, like I learned to speak Japanese. You know, like I do things like that just to try and make things better. I prepare as much as humanly possible for something like that, and then yeah, like it all just comes down to that short period of time with. And I mean, let's be real, with the guy who probably doesn't really care. You know, like for Shingo, that's a small show. You know, for us, it's a massive show. Not that he was like that at all. He really wasn't. He was a super hard worker. But like that's you don't know that until you get there. So yeah, I just had to be in absolute tip top shape and have everything that I could possibly have prepared, every possible scenario thought about and prepared for, and then just be as well rested as possible going into it, which is a struggle for me more than anything, because usually by the time I get there, I'm half dead just getting there. So I'm going to try and be as prepared as possible and as rested as possible just to get through it so I can nail everything. But yeah, no, everything went spectacular. I mean, like from your own perspective, it's hard to say, but it's more about listening to what the other people around you and stuff say. And it really seemed to have met expectation from everyone from PWA and from New Japan.
I really felt like, because I was in the audience of the crowd and I was in different parts, and like I've never, like most crowds at PWA shows are pretty on fire and pretty electric, but like this crowd, like this buzz in the audience just seemed like something different to me. You know what I mean? Like it was like it felt something like special. Like everyone was there that was just like so hyped, and like it felt like, you know, when you go to a rock concert and you go out to like at an intermission and like random people just come up and talk to you. That's the kind of vibe that I got there. You know what I mean? Like it was a cool vibe, and it really like it had this level of excitement as well. So I think PWA definitely delivered for the audience.
Yeah, it was a really special show. I think it's probably our best show we've ever done.
That's a big call.
I mean, just it's one of those things when you take a step back, because the thing about a wrestling show is it's not just about the wrestling. I say it to anybody who'll listen in terms of promotions or in terms of putting together a show and stuff like that. If you have the option of having the best roster in the world and an average venue that's going to create an average atmosphere, or you have the option of having a decent roster who's going to wrestle okay, and the best venue and the best atmosphere and the best lighting in the world, you take option 2 every time. like the wrestling is important, and you want to have the best wrestling possible and all that kind of gear, and it's important. But like what it comes down to is the actual show experience you're providing to the crowd.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you have a show like that, and PWA was top notch on World Wrestling, like people could argue, oh, I preferred the matches on this other card, sure, yeah. But I don't think there's any argument that it's in the top tier of PWA in-ring performances. But on top of that, you have the Roundhouse, which was the venue. You have the lighting, you have the big screens, you have the live band who was there in the mission. You had the live band playing Me to the Ring, and they were so good with it. They did a DX cover in the middle of it, which was fucking fantastic. And then on top of that, you have well, yeah, and then you have the main event with the cage, but not just the cage. You have Ricky entering with the WrestleMania 3 reference, like with Andre and Bobby Heenan in that ring, like in a mini ring that they wheeled into the way to the ring. Who the fuck would have thought of that? And then you have Mick Moretti entering with a fire dancer.
Yeah,
like he does this big spectacular thing in terms of whatever before they hit the cage, on top of all the hype videos and the live promos and all the different gimmicks and stuff like that. Like, who's doing that? How many wrestling shows have a fire dancer for an entrance? Like, that's like
it's not many, man. And you know what? Like that whole thing, like Ricky's entrance was just like, I was just like, God damn! Like it made, you know, it was perfect for like how he came to the ring like that, the pose, the light, everything that was sort of hitting him. He looked like a way a champion should look. Like, you know what I mean? Like the spotlight needs to be on him. He is the stuff, you know what I mean? Like that to me, like was even, and how the new like altering heel turn with Ricky's going, like it kind of makes sense with that kind of entrance. You know what I mean?
It wasn't just fancy stuff for the sake of fancy stuff. It was something fancy that actually really fit the character and the situation as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just bullshit for the sake of bullshit. You know, it wasn't like Ricky had just, you know, dropped down from the sky in a harness or a thing like that. It was like, hey, that was cool. That was something that actually suited him for the situation and what he was trying to accomplish. And the same with Moretti's entrance. So it's just one of those things where like all that production stuff is so well done, and that's what nobody else does. I mean, you can argue until you're blue in the face about what's the better matches and what's the better in ring, but all those other tight extras on top of live streaming it with the videos and all that kind of gear, that's the stuff that we feel you need to move up to a next level. That's what gets talked about.
Well, that's the thing. That's the difference, I feel like, when you look at mainstream wrestling as opposed to independent wrestling. Like independent, like the Roundhouse show didn't feel like an independent show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it you know what I mean? Like it felt like a big production of an event. And that comes down from the main event entrances to the big screen to the whole aspect of it, and even the venue itself. I feel like there's always going to be critiques of every product, and there's going to be people that like this product over that product wrestler. And I feel like, not everyone needs to be the greatest of in-ring performers. You can also have a great gimmick, a great personality. You bring that to the table, and you see like there's wrestlers that have gone on to have amazing careers with incredible personalities in ring style. They might not be the greatest, but they were able to connect with the audience. And I feel like, PWA performers, a majority, pretty much all of them, connect with that audience, whether it's a baby face or a heel or someone who's kind of skirting that in between. There's always that connection.
Yeah, and they can all wrestle too. I mean, that's the idea, is that you can do both. Yeah. But like that's they can all do both.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying there's anyone on PWA's roster.
No, I know what you're saying, but that's where it gets interesting too, is that like they're not just focused on being plain, boring, vanilla ice cream. Look at me, I'm a pro wrestler and I do fancy holds. Everybody has a character. Everybody knows how to do a promo. Everybody works hard to produce those extra things like that. Like at the recent December 10 event, the angle with SMS and Billy Preston, just perfect. Did you see that one? Yeah.
I popped for it because I was like, as soon as I was sitting there, I'm like, I could see like Billy Preston's like little smirk that he was doing. So I knew something was coming up because I could see he was like holding it back.
So that kind of thing, that's where it comes up, So we're just, I mean, that's what PWA is trying to do. They're just trying to a sustainable Australian pro wrestling product. We're not happy just, treading water in the same 1, 2, 300 seat places. We want to build up and get bigger and do something more. And when you have that attitude, you don't just focus on, on just being good plain wrestling that's in the same whatever. You got to create that atmosphere. Everyone has custom music. Everyone's prepared. It's really what it's coming down to is scaling the company or getting the company ready to scale. So the idea is that if PWA got a big financial backer or got on TV or did something and very quickly became 50 times the size it is now, people would be ready. I wouldn't have to change because I own my music. I own all my footage attached to me. I don't use anything trademark. So if somebody threw me on a bigger show and said, "Where's your music?" I said, "This one." They said, "Oh, we're going to use something generic." I would say, "No, it's okay. I own it. Here's the thing that says I own it." And everyone's getting ready for that. Like there's just tons of little things like that it takes to just build up, making a statement with a national tour, like doing the biggest shows, doing all that kind of stuff to try and get us noticed. More and more guys are getting signed by overseas promotions and then coming back and helping out and, doing stuff like that, like Robbie going to New Japan. The Velocity's gone to Rev Pro, who did that this year as well, who got flown over there. So it's just this continual grind, try and get bigger. That's the aim. We had a lot of stabs at it this year, and we're just going to keep moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask you as well, like we touched about the cage match, and when I had Gibbs and Zuko on a couple of weeks back, we talked about cage matches because I'm not sure, like he had a cage match at another promotion, EWA, and Zuko actually went through the cage in an unplanned like segment there. And then, we talked about another show with AWE, the cage, PWA, like, I think the cage was a much more sturdy structure, but there was, kinks in it where there were concerns. My question to them was, it seems that here, like with cage matches, that from what I've seen, 3 of them live now, and there's always been like some issue with the cage. Is it still safe to still do cage matches, or can there be something else done? Because it's like, that's 3 different shows from 3 different levels of promotions that I've seen. And it's like, there's still been moments with that cage.
Well, I mean, between PWA and Newcastle Pro, we've done about 10 cage matches over the last 3 years. And that's the first time we've had an issue with the cage.
Yeah.
So all that happened was that if you look at the design, there's a, what's the name? There's a, the way it's put together, there's a little connector at the bottom that where you have 2 pieces on one side of the cage. So there's 8 pieces around the cage of fencing.
Yeah.
and one of the connectors between the two pieces got worn and bent, and then just broke, and it slipped through, so the cage fell out. So somebody had to come and just hold it like that. So all it takes is a new connection thing. So the whole thing's pretty solid, and it's fairly well designed. I can't speak to the other ones, but yeah, it's just that was just a maintenance thing.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Like I said, I just was like, because it's like, to me, it was like 3 times.
There was a lot that went wrong in a short period of time. That is strange.
Yeah, no, like that. Well, that's the thing, and I value your opinion on it, so that's why I wanted to ask what your thought was, because I know safety is a very big part of your plan for your audience, and also your wrestlers as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's it's an inherent risk that was disappointing that was something that that wasn't found ahead of time, and yeah, that's no good.
Mechanical things can stuff up sometimes, and that's just unfortunate,
Yeah, but everyone was okay, and then they worked through it, so they're all good. Actually, the worst one. The worst one, stuff like the TLC match. I'd do a cage match before I did a TLC match.
Yeah,
working with ladders. I think ladders are the most dangerous thing.
Yeah, I think ladders and fire.
See, it depends on fire, because the thing is, like, with it depends if it's fire or if it's fire. Because if you have if you have proper lighter fluid and you get cut with it, and it's probably burned. But if you just have that stuff that just fizzles and goes, or even that's just like a flash paper thing, that can be, depending, that can be okay. I mean, obviously you don't want to fuck with fire. But it's bad and all those kinds of things. But I think I think there are 2 versions of fire. I think there's like a real fire that's actually going to be on fire, and then there are other things that just sort of look like fire but aren't real fire.
I mean, I think fire is just unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like, you can't.
Yeah, it just depends. But ladders, though, like, just the way they bend and move, and if they lean against something, or if they open at the wrong time, or they what do you call, they like seesaw, like if you get a leverage on one of them and then someone hits this thing and you'll hear it and it comes up, and there's so much danger.
Joey Mercury, remember that?
Exactly that situation, yeah. So that kind of stuff happens so often, and then guys are just like falling through the ladders when they have different things. You don't know if it's going to break, and then you've got twisted metal around in places like that. Like, we're not, so that's what I'd actually be more scared of, a ladder than anything. Than I would be with a cage or something like that. It's more of just a structure.
Yeah, I think because that you can still work within the perimeters of that sort of cage, right? So like with the ladder, it's something in the way of you working.
Yeah. So ladders have freaked me out, I think.
Have you done many ladder matches in your career?
No. No. I can remember one.
Yeah.
I think we've done one. There might have been like no DQ matches that sort of had ladders, but I don't know if even that happened. I can't stand no disqualification at the best of times. Like, I'm almost never in them because I hate them. But like, it's just one of those things where I think I've been on one ladder match. It was like a 4-way ladder match down at in Wollongong.
Oh wow.
So
4 people, it would have been.
Yeah, 4 people going on. Everything's happening at the same time. So, and there are lots of different ladders and things like that going on. So I think that's the only one I've ever done, actually.
So, tell me about Bullet Club. Like, at the show, at the Roundhouse show, you did join up with Bullet Club and join that faction. Is that like a permanent thing going forward? Is that a connection with New Japan now that, are we going to be seeing Jack Bonza performing on a New Japan show over in Japan?
Well, hopefully. I don't want to, yes, I'm permanently in Bullet Club. So, I mean, that was the cool thing, is that there was even an article released from the New Japan website talking about my induction into Bullet Club and the Rogue Army. But the thing is, and this is what we're trying to do, right? So, like, when I don't think that people are goal-oriented enough in general in wrestling, right? I talked to, I think probably Jessica Troy once. Probably a lot of people, but I remember the conversation with Jessica Troy, and I said, "What are you trying to do?" And I think her response was like, I want to get signed. And I said, get signed where? And she goes, I don't know. And I go, well, you need to figure out where, because getting signed in Japan and getting signed by WWE and getting signed by TNA and getting signed by AEW or wherever are all very different. Like it takes different things to achieve that, like depending on where you're going. And so I think that like, and because especially when like you talk about like, if we said like, who's the most successful Australian wrestler ever? And you could have two people with two different points screaming until they're blue in the face and all that kind of stuff like that, because no one's defining their objectives, right? So what I always think is you got to work out what it is that you actually want to do. And I went on 4 trips to America from when I went to uni. I've got a bachelor's degree in business. I've got a master's degree in accounting. And every time I would go to uni, you get 3 months off over summer, I would travel. So I would go to America. I went to California, I went to Texas, I went to Philadelphia. And then I did a little bit in Florida, right? So I went around different places. And on the way home, I was in the green card lottery for like every year for like 10 years or whatever. It was like my 3rd year and I won. Yeah. So I won a green card, go and live in America permanently, which was my dream I wanted to do. After spending 4 lots of 2 or 3 months there, I didn't want to live there anymore because I don't like America. I don't like living there.
What was it about?
That kind of stuff. Walking from the bus station in Texas to training was a half-an-hour walk, and I would pass roughly 200 or 300 homeless people on the way. I met a homeless toddler on the bus one time. Multiple times, I was accosted by drunk, semi-homeless people who would just abuse the crap out of me for no reason. There was no right answer. There was nothing you can do. This happened on a regular basis. And then you would like, it'd just be this horrible thing. And then even now, I still see people who like need GoFundMes to pay for healthcare. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, what if everybody in the country donated to a GoFundMe, right? And that way, instead of one person having to put in a lot of money, everybody put in a little bit of money into this generic GoFundMe that then everybody used for medical bills, instead of having a GoFundMe for one person and they have to hopefully be famous enough to get enough Twitter likes to do whatever. Everybody donated into one for everybody. That's called Medicare.
Yeah.
That's universal healthcare, but they'll argue with you. Oh no, I shouldn't say everybody. I'm generalizing, but like a lot of people will argue with you until you're blue in the face that universal healthcare is bad. But then one of them gets sick and they need a fucking GoFundMe to pay for the $100,000 bill. Like I can't, like the place is so backwards in so many ways. And you live in Australia, and I'm like, I live 10 minutes from a beach. It's currently like 33 degrees outside. I spend my Sundays on my nice little thing in my kiddie pool with my 2-year-old son. Like I just went to the dentist today. It doesn't cost anything. Like this is like, why would I want to move? I want to live here. I don't want to go to that place. I like it here. Like,
I mean, unless you're earning like a good living over there, then you kind of like, all right, well, you suck it up for the career aspect because you're getting paid shitloads of money to be there. But like, I get where you come from.
That's my point. Is I don't want to do that. Like, I'd rather not make as much money. And like I know if you're a millionaire and you live there, you just live in rich places, you get chauffeured around, none of that matters. It's fine, but it's still just I don't know, man. I like Australia, so like the idea was to. And if I'm sorry to American people that don't like that, I have tons of American friends. I promise. Like there's lots of good things there. I know. I visit there for holidays. I like Disney World. But like, actually go and live in the America part of America, like the real thing. And there's just like gun violence, man. Like, am I going to put my 5-year-old my 2-year-old in a school in a couple of years where the amount of people who get shot? No. So, it's just, I don't like it. So, but I love pro wrestling, and I want wrestling to be the living, and I want it to be sustainable, and I want that kind of thing. So the goal is to do it in Australia. Right. Yeah. And you asked me about Bullet Club. And the reason why I have this long-winded thing is because it's bad luck Farley's same goal. Yeah. He wants to live in this area and make pro wrestling for him and for his students a viable thing in Australia. And he's done it in Japan and all that kind of stuff so far. So he's trying to use his connections to bring that here. And that's the goal of the Rogue Army. It's to recruit here and get enough people and then make enough noise and do enough stuff and just kick down enough doors that we can get New Japan to come to Australia and we can get the Australian guys to come to New Japan and we can get a synergy where we can use that, we can leverage that to create a sustainable pro wrestling industry in Australia.
Yeah.
And so that we don't have to leave. We don't have to travel all the time. We don't have to do all that kind of stuff. And we can stay here and do it. And then when we stay here and do it, and that's the fun. So that's the goal of what we're trying to do. And that's the knocking down the door with the Bullet Club is we have the similar goals because it all comes down to money. I mean, like look at what's Bullet Club's gimmick at the end of the day. They want to make money. That's what they all want. That's what they're all there for.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Maybe the boss will tell me something different. But like that's the that's what we're trying to do. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the point of me joining Bullet Club. We're trying to leverage a sustainable pro wrestling industry in Australia. And this is just the beginning of it. That first Tamashi show was so successful. Like the guys went back, they gave stellar reviews to all the office. The footage looked great. The footage just went up today. Everybody go and watch it. It's fantastic. Like of all the guys who are getting opportunities. And the thing is too, is we just did Sydney and we just did New Zealand, right? So there were guys in New Zealand who got opportunities and there were guys in Sydney who got opportunities. Well, next time maybe they'll go to Melbourne, because it worked well here. And then maybe they'll go to Adelaide and maybe they'll go to Queensland. Maybe they'll go to Newcastle. Maybe they'll go to Wollongong. Maybe they'll go to Perth. Maybe they'll go to, they're going to Wagga Wagga. So if there are any wrestlers in Wagga Wagga, who
is there wrestling in Wagga?
There is now.
There is now, New Japan.
So, that's one of those. That's just one of those things. So they're coming back, and that 4-day thing, the Oceania Cup, is going to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be massive. It's going to be really cool, and they're aiming to get thousands of people there. Like it's going to be a big tourist thing. And I don't imagine it's too expensive to travel to Wagga Wagga.
Wagga's a cool place. I've been there a couple of times. It is like a country community town. Like literally, they have 2 pubs. Everything's closed on Sunday. like no joke. I've been there, and it was like I went there for work once, and literally like I was there for the weekend, and it was like Sunday. I went, where can I go get something to eat? Like at a pub, and it was like everything's shut.
Everything's shut. You got to get on that. No, but my general point was that for anybody who's outside of Sydney and wasn't in this little controlled sort of deal for the first test kitchen version of a Tamashi. Yeah. Support it, spread it, be positive, and that will help you possibly get a shot if it comes to your hometown. Because if it gets shat on and nobody likes it, they're not going to come back, which means no opportunities for everybody. If it goes well in Sydney, they're going to go, hey, maybe we should try somewhere else. The more successful it is, the more it's going to create more opportunities for everybody so that everybody can have a sustainable wrestling industry. I want a sustainable pro wrestling industry so that Jack Bonza can be a wrestler in Australia. But the byproduct of that is that hundreds of other people will benefit too. That's sort of what we're aiming for, and that's what we're working towards. Hopefully, does my name show up on screen? Yes, Adam Montgomery, it does.
Yes, it does, Adam. Thank you. But did you see the news today about Mandy Rose getting released?
Yeah.
For having an OnlyFans or a brand army account that she was putting photos up behind a paywall.
She put a photo up on one of her private things that
behind a paywall, yeah.
Behind a paywall that got leaked somewhere that was apparently too risque for WWE, and they probably warned her before, and they released her. Awful decision. Come on, man. And look, I get it from a business perspective, right? Because thing I hate about all these kinds of comments on it, whether it's backwards or forwards, is that nobody knows what actually happened or the reasoning behind it.
Well, the thing is,
there could be a million things. I just need to clarify. There could be a million things. At the end of the day, no, she shouldn't have been. There's no way she should have been fired. It's a morally corrupt decision for them to, encourage this kind of thing or to allow it. Either they're allowed to have OnlyFans or they're not. And if they're allowed to have or Patreon or whatever one she's using, and if they're allowed to do it, then there can be some kind of clear guidelines. Maybe I don't know, but I don't think she broke that. They just sort of went, oh, that's a bit whatever, and they released her, or there should be more. Like, well, she didn't hurt anybody, you know.
Well,
like, what is she like?
the thing is, like, and my take on it from like the people that I've spoken to over the time that have been behind the scenes in WWE like years ago, they always say there's always more than one reason that someone gets released. Like, there's never any like, hey, it's just a budget cutback, or it's just whatever it is, we have nothing for you. And
That's
like,
what I was talking about, right? See, I wasn't like they released her because they wanted to get rid of Mandy Rose. My thing was more like they might have a board of directors meeting, or they might have exactly right. Like Riddle's fucking high again, and they send him to rehab to help him out. She accidentally puts a pit instead of being asked to take it down, she gets fired. It's bullshit. But but it might be like they might have like fucking a toy sponsorship that comes up. They might have like a little kid that's come up that could be worth $500 million to the company. And then something like that gets leaked, and they have to, as a show of faith to confirm this sponsor, just release this contract that's only worth 300 grand a year to them or something like that, to like in order to satiate something that could be millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? Still wrong. Like, and it's still stupid, but that's when people are just like, oh, they're just doing it because of this. It's like, well, they could actually be $500 million on the line, or it could be nothing. You don't know.
True, but I look at it like this: when they had Paige on their roster for years, not wrestling, not even being on screen at a point, so not being a like adding value to the company per se. She has a video leaked, which, to be fair, like, she didn't ask for that to happen, but she also then was in the public eye, in a toxic relationship with Alberto Del Rio, where they were throwing drinks at each other and stuff like that. Still didn't get released. We don't know what happens behind the scenes. Then you look at Jimmy Uso, who has basically had, DUI after DUI after DUI, and they just give him tag team championship after tag team championship and book him in one of the hottest angles in the company.
So you think there's a different reason why Mandy probably got released as well? I mean, that could make sense.
I think there's still a level of politics in WWE, and I think that they probably thought, because she said she didn't want to sign after her current deal is up.
Okay.
So they probably thought, okay, so there's no real value with her. Her contract might have almost been up in a year, and they probably went, you know what, we'll just cut ties now. Or she was causing problems backstage and said, I don't like this creative, and that could have been a repeat thing. Who knows? Yeah. Like, the only people that know are behind those closed doors. Like, we can speculate, and that's the thing with a lot of wrestling fans and these, dirt sheet writers. All it is speculation.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's all nobody really knows anything. I think if I, as a cis white male, talking to you as a cis white male, need to comment again on an issue that essentially probably comes down to women's bodies, right? I always refer back to the women. What do they think? And I mean, I just think it could have been all those things, and I think this was a dumb fucking decision. Like whether she was being a jerk backstage, or whether she wasn't, whether there was some other million reasons. The fact that this was the final straw, it sends a bad message to people, and I think it leaves a really bad taste in people's mouths, right? Especially when stuff like, I mean, there just seems to be a pattern of them being so encouraging of like Paul Logan, right, coming in. Yeah. Has this huge following and then becomes a wrestler, and they put him in matches, right? And it's cool because he got this following and he makes all this money on the side that he already had before WWE. Then they use that to leverage him. Then the WWE wrestlers make money elsewhere and can bring people back, and they don't want that. Like, there's so much dumb stuff. And to send the message out to people that like over the stuff where it's like they literally do present these women in a very sexy way a lot of the time. Like, there are photos of her with the belt, but she's not wearing any clothes and things like that, which they were cool with. And then for the final straw to be, they got rid of it because of this. Like, I think if there was some other reason why they had to get rid of her, this should have come out. They should have been cool with this. And then later, they should have been whatever one of the other reasons are that could be more legitimate. If one does exist, they should have got rid of her and named that as the official reason. Because when you're looking at stuff like this, where you just kind of like, like for so long, WWE profited off of women's wrestling being nothing but like jelly wrestling. Like, they're just there to be sexualized.
But did you see Mandy Rose's complete gimmick? in the toxic attraction thing, her whole thing.
And
And
they're bringing it back, right? And then they're doing all that kind of stuff, and you're sitting there going, "What the fuck?" And then like women's wrestling went through this thing where they had to be taken serious as wrestlers, and now
yeah,
there's all this discourse over them doing OnlyFans and selling their own photos. Well, like again, if anybody cares about the white guy's opinion here, they've taken control of it. They're the one profiting from it. They're the one choosing exactly what content goes out there. They have that choice, and then their choices they directly profit from. They're not being exploited anymore. And well, I'm sure they are in some cases, but like these OnlyFans that these women are completely in control of, they're not being exploited. They're doing their own thing, right? And so when you have somebody who is being presented still in that sexy light, but does have this other thing that she profits from that sort of is under her control and makes it cool, and then they get rid of her for that, like it's like fuck. It's a shit call. I still say it was a shit call.
but that's the whole thing. They had her doing video vignettes in G-string bikinis and stuff like that, and they're saying her post goes against our violations unless she was doing XXX rated stuff and she was shooting porn. I'm sorry, like what she was doing on NXT vignettes,
it was fine.
that's pretty much
it's a bad call. And like I said, my point is too, if you want to look at it less morally outraged, it's like if there was a different reason, like if there was a sponsorship thing that was important, if there was another backstage thing, if there was a whatever, them naming this as the reason is outright dumb. Like just in the environment and the whole thing just strikes you as being fucking stupid.
But that was what was being reported, though, Bonza.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't actually been, like, I don't think WWE's come out and said this is why, like, they don't come out and say we released them because of this. They would say, we have released Mandy Rose, aka Mandy Sachs. You know, we wish her well on her future endeavors.
Okay. Well, timing wise, it still seems bad. I mean, like just for that it happened and then it went straight away. But maybe you're right. Maybe everyone's really jumped to the wrong conclusion and it has nothing to do with that. But I don't know. That's why I don't like the internet much.
Look, you know what? Like you mentioned OnlyFans, and I agree with you on a certain point on it. I think that these creators and these performers, these women are taking control of their own thing. I don't really care what people do. If it's not my business, it's for them. I kind of look at OnlyFans as one way of kind of teaching like a generation of males now that affection and relationships to a certain degree are transactional. And I kind of think like it also opens up to a level of creepiness that you're welcoming into your life. Like you take a female professional wrestler who has an OnlyFans and these fans start turning up on shows and they start getting in this stalker vibe. You know what I mean? Like that to me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just an old fart that I'm seeing it in a different light. But again, I don't care what people.
I think you'd find that creepiness existed for a long time, and like I don't think this is creating the creepiness so much as it is just taking advantage of it, if anything at all. Because I don't know. Look, I'll give you one example. Jessica Troy has a Patreon, right? And it's a fucking book club.
Yeah,
they read a different book every month. She's fucking educating people, you know. Like these things aren't all like. They're not all the same thing, and they're always the creepy vibe. But man, like those, I think those wrestling fan things existed existed before before all that kind of thing. Like it's just like, I mean, there's literally like a Wikipedia devoted to pictures of their feet.
Yeah,
you know?
like that's.
It becomes that creepiness. It's been there for a long time, and I think they're just taking control of it. But again, because the conversation comes back to like, well, okay, it's up to them. They're aware of the creepiness. They're aware of what they're doing, and it's their power and it's their decision making. And if they're going to create a situation where if it does turn out that they are wrong and there are more creeps that are on shows, well, then we'll all have to learn from that. But you've got to respect that they get to make that choice, and then we have to suffer. And then we can deal with it later if that is indeed what's happening. And I sort of think like if there are guys who are getting sucked in by OnlyFans and they're learning that it's transactional and all that kind of gear like that, well, it's on them. It's on their parents. Go outside, like get a job, meet real women if that's the fucking problem. Like, I mean, you know, like, and if you can't do that, figure it out a different way or pay you $3 a month and have, you know, them message you back because you're paying them. Like, whatever. Like, it's just,
Yeah, look, man, I got all respect for him going out there and make that money. To be honest, like, good luck to people. You know what I mean? You know, I don't really judge people on that. Like, I look at it as more of like the whole platform as opposed to the people that are creating it. I think, you know what, if there's a way for you to make money and support yourself and make a significant living from doing that, and you're cool with doing that, more power to you.
What's the difference between, you know, OnlyFans and Playboy? You know, like the difference was that like Playboy would pay the woman a certain amount, and then the men owning Playboy would make more money. Now they've taken, not that it's the same necessarily the same product as Playboy, but if we are talking about the OnlyFans that lean into the adult industry stuff, if we are talking about that, the creators get the money. You know, like this is just a way of cutting out big business. You know, like it's almost the same argument as personal computers. You know, like the whole purpose of personal computers originally was so that a small business could compete with a large business, because before, the function of a personal computer had to be done by 24 people, and one person couldn't do it. But then a personal computer made them able to do like the bookkeeping work, to do the accounting software, to do all that kind of stuff like this. They cut out the big global middleman who was ripping people off and let people do it themselves. So now, like the content creators are the ones directly profiting from it, you know, and that just gives them their power, and that gives them their thing. So I don't want to. I reckon you should get Charlie Evans or Shazza McKenzie or someone on the thing, and then ask them about it, because like again, like so many of these questions, we can have our opinions, but we're not the ones being directly affected by, you know, we're not in the game, you know. Like, I mean, it's when Mandy Rose comes up, and I can just say that's fucking stupid for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
If we're actually getting into the conversation about OnlyFans and stuff like that, I don't think that's a conversation that I can weigh in on it, I guess. But at the end of the day,
I mean, well, that's what it was, right?
Yeah. So that's sort of the deal. But I mean, sometimes I ask them to explain it to me. Like, I just sort of say like, hey guys, I'm just curious. Like this is sort of what I think is happening, and obviously I don't give a fucking way, but you have conversations with it, you know. So I think they're usually okay. But man, I think it really helps. I don't know if it's their income, but it helps supplement their income. Like I think overall I think it's a positive thing. And the other cool thing is too, stuff like this too. Has Mandy Rose said anything about it? Because she might come out and just be like, they gave me a choice and I told them to fuck off because I was making so much money through my OnlyFans that I didn't need them anymore. And I knew I was going to fucking do this, which would be a big positive. It's like Sasha Banks. They tried to tell her you can and can't do this so they don't treat her seriously. And she just goes, I actually don't need you.
They get to that level. Like Sasha Banks got to that level where she was a megastar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she'd been in movies, so she didn't really, you know what I mean? Like, she'd made her money. She'd been there that long. Like, you know, I think that she's just going, well, fuck it. I'll walk out. You know what I mean? But, like, from what I heard of Mandy Rose, I heard Mandy Rose was actually making what, like, main roster main eventers are making through her, like, brand army or some shit. Like, it wasn't just, like, a couple of grand a month. She was raking in, like, serious bank.
Yeah. So again, who knows what's real? But I mean, I think that's a big possibility. I mean, if you're making a couple of $100,000 a month, you don't need anybody.
Like, but that's the thing. Like, you then, like, you know, you're in your own control. You're your own boss. You're putting out what you want to put out. So, man, more power to it, man. The way I see it.
Yeah. So that's good, but.
You know, moving on from OnlyFans, but you know, looking at you know, one of the things we spoke about at a show once is like, and you said you've got to get me on to talk about some the storylines that didn't happen on shows and how they didn't sort of eventuate. And because that's the thing, like I think the conversation was, like I said, I'm really enjoying how like PWA storylines are really starting to evolve this year, and like it's really really cool to get into. And you were like, that's when you made the statement about coming on the pod. But what has been some of your like favorite, or one of the ones that you really liked but hasn't been executed or didn't get executed?
I mean, like, I don't know. It's sort of hard to go back into it. I mean, like, you just look at the injuries that happened. Like Ricky was supposed to do something different, but then he hurt his neck. You know, it's just the long term build stuff. Like I think the biggest waste was what were they calling themselves? The MMA, the Marnell Management Agency.
Yeah.
Because that only started to get white hot, like where the heel ref thing happened and Jessica Troy lost the belt to Sam, and then Sam, Marnell, and John Anderson all quit. like with no notice was given. It was just kind of like they all just pieced out. Like they got and they had their reasons. It's all good. It was just like I think if that had a chance to breathe for 6 months or a year, it would have been spectacular.
Yeah.
Just all the different elements, because there was like you stand back and look at it. You had Sam Osborne, who was the I refer to it as a white privilege gimmick.
Yeah.
You had Sam Osborne, who was the great athlete. He's intelligent, he's rich, he's got every advantage. And then on top of that, he has a manager who's doing everything in his power to protect the guy who could, Sam Osborne, the guy who could win it all on his own, now has a manager doing everything in the manager's power to fuck everybody else around him. Then he has the heel referee as a backup who's on his payroll, who is then going to make it so it's almost impossible for him to lose a match if he actually gets to lose, in a position where he is somehow going to lose a match. And then all of this horrible stuff is happening. You have the guy, Will Keatis, in charge of the media, reporting that none of this is happening. So it's a politician. Like you have the guy who's the lawmaker, who's the referee, you have the businessman who's making the most of it, and then you have the product, and then you have the media, the right-wing media, what's his name, the guy thank Christ finally died, Rush Limbaugh, sort of like reporting that all this evil stuff that's happening isn't evil, and that everybody who's saying it is evil is terrible. Such a powerful gimmick. Like imagine the things you could do. Imagine when you've got the heel ref, like you have a baby face who finally breaks through and gets close to him, and then Sam just beats him. You have a baby face who breaks through and who nearly beats Sam, but then his manager pulls it. You have a baby face that breaks through, bops off the fucking manager, nearly gets to win, and the referee refuses to count. And then you get the referee who refuses to count, something happens, that ref gets knocked down, and then the babyface ref comes out and does a fucking 1, 2, and then Sam kicks out at 3, just before 3, so that and still manages to win the actual amount of emotional near falls that gimmick could have created over time would have been unbelievable, and it was built so well and so strongly. And then whoever eventually beat him, who overcomes Sam, the prize ball premium athlete as an athlete, overcame the manager, overcame the fucking media shitting on him, overcame the referee, and then of course overcame Sam himself in the end, would have launched this monstrous babyface, who could have done anything, and it probably would have created a bunch of really good or elevated a bunch of really good faces along the way if people just getting close. Because the good thing about having a big heel champ like that with all those things around them is that somebody can get close, and it's like they can show that they were a better wrestler than Sam and the champion, and show that they're this great wrestler and still not win.
Yeah, because he fucks them in the end. Yeah.
Because you get so much mileage out of that. So you're elevating new people, but you don't have to constantly have a title change. That was, I think, the biggest. That's the biggest disappointment in terms of storylines. That's sort of gone on recently. I think that one was very frustrating.
I'd agree, man, because I feel like Sam Osborne, man, he was is such an amazing wrestler, from performer, from his heel entrance and everything like that. He never was insulting to the crowd, but he was just a smug prick to the crowd, and he just played he did his role incredibly well and could go in the ring. I think the match against Jess Troy, I really, really enjoyed that match, and I really thought both Jess and Sam did amazing. That when I heard that he was retiring, I was like, this has got to be a fucking work. Straight away, I thought it had to be a work.
Yeah. So it's just very disappointing
Yeah.
in terms of all that kind of stuff being built up. But I mean, what do you do? Other people, they have their real lives. Stuff gets in the way. There were legit reasons for all of it. No one was just an asshole about it. Like it was all like just something happened. They had to leave. Like that's it. Like it's just one of those things that happens sometimes. But it's just incredibly bad timing and just disappointing. I think COVID delayed some things too, like and wasted some time around it. So like there's that kind of thing that's just been happening consistently for the last couple of years. So yeah,
But I
hopefully.
think I think this year's been a turnaround though. Like I think like I mean, like PWA has had some pretty good storylines as well on top of that. Like Carter joining SMS, I think was like, I've had Carter on and I said to him, that was like one of the moments that made me fall in love with wrestling as a kid was like those what the fuck moments that happen where you like don't see shit happening, like get the fuck out of here. Like
Yeah,
I
but then like, you don't see it coming, but then once you see it coming, it actually makes sense that that's what's happening. That's the best.
100%. Yeah.
Carter joining SMS was really great. Was really well done too. Like, because that's the thing too is like you look at SMS's gimmick, and everybody in SMS was abandoned by somebody. And so the question begs whether Unsocial Jordan is helping people who have been abandoned, or whether Unsocial Jordan is taking advantage of people who are in a rough spot. And so he can sort of use that to brainwash people a little bit. And there's always that element there, but nobody saw it coming. But yeah, with Carter, they become a much stronger group
Yeah.
now. So they're gone really cool. And the other, and I mean, probably the best storyline of the year was Cherry. With the cherries, all that gimmick, that was really strong. Just sort of, and that one bounced off the MMA thing. That probably wouldn't have happened without the MMA thing disbanding. Like just her being the referee and the decision making. I think it's the first time I've ever I've ever seen a 90s rom-com turned into a wrestling angle.
Yeah, right. But I tell you what, when she won the Solar PWA Championship at Coogee, it was like me and Jess, while Jimbro Jess was standing at the side with these two women from like they weren't like regular wrestling fans at all. Like they were just, I think they just were at Coogee whatever and went in and bought a ticket or whatever the reason was that they were there. And like how invested they got in this match and how they got invested in Cherry. By the time that Cherry like got the 1, 2, 3, these women were like standing there embracing and crying, and I'm just like, wow, this is fucking nuts. Like they were just going ballistic for it.
Well,
And
that's the thing too, and it's hard to skirt the line for anybody who's paying attention. Like some of the positions, like Cherry was basically abused by Ketis, and then by Fudge and all that kind of stuff. And when you're watching it, you're like, this needs to happen so we can get the big playoff. But in the moment, this can be a bit rough to watch. Like,
because everyone loves an underdog. Everyone wants to see the underdog succeed.
Everyone wants to see an underdog, but nobody has the patience for the story to end. Like the amount of like tweets and stuff you see about people being like, "Why is this happening? This is stupid. Cherry's a great wrestler. Why is she just refereeing?" Like, it's just kind of like, all right, just calm down. Like
that's wrestling fans, and I think like people in society now just want stuff instantly. They don't want to wait for the story to unfold. It's like just
but also if you do get instant gratification, it wasn't good enough because they should have waited for a longer story. But that's just everyone. It's actually becoming an interesting debate over like with like Netflix series is do they release them week by week or do they drop them in one hit? And I think what they were doing for a long time was they were dropping it all in one hit so you could binge watch it and get the instant gratification. But I think people have learned that that's actually not as good as waiting a week. Like dropping an episode a week for 10 weeks, you get a week of fan theories, you get a week of breakdown videos, you get a week of like discussing your favorite things and looking forward to the next thing. You get that feeling of anticipation. So I think people are starting to learn that you need episodic things and you need time in between stuff for it to breathe. If you want there to be genuine mystery or anticipation and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully people can start to relax a little bit.
Well, like that's the thing. I think like in mainstream wrestling, the one thing I feel is missing today that what got me hooked as a teenager during the Attitude Era was every episode or every show would end with like a hanging moment, like a what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch. Did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy on TV or The Sopranos? Like
Yes.
those series, each episode would end in a what the fuck moment, and at the end of the season, it would be a massive, dramatic what the fuck moment because then it leaves you hanging. And I think that's what's kind of missing in like a WWE and AEW in storylines and weekly television is there's no what the fuck moment that really wants me to go, you know what, I have to go and see what happens with Finn Balor or this person or stuff like that. Where I think that that's where wrestling really needs to head back in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating anticipation is the biggest thing. That's when you look at like what it actually has to be. Like, there needs to be a reason for anticipation, and there has to be a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a yeah, exactly. Make you hungry. What's going to happen next? But it has to be like a an uncertainty. That's the thing. It has to be a reason why you want to see it, and there has to be something in the match that you're uncertain about. And that's where it's sort of like we don't. And that so it's like the reason to want to see the match, and then the reason why you have to actually see the match and not just wait to see the result pop up on Twitter.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like even like seeing results and stuff like that. Like to me, honestly, like I would rather like wait and watch something than sit there and see results or read the results. Like if there's like a show or a UFC card or something like that going on, and I know that I'm gonna miss it, I just avoid social media for the 8 or so hours until I can get home and sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I'm constantly deleting the apps off my phone just to make sure I don't get
the reminders and shit. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's all good, man. But yeah, just I guess in summation of everything, man, it's been a tough year. I'm sure it's been a tough year for everybody because I think the thing about the year is that COVID was the last couple of years. This is the year of recovering from COVID. We don't have time off anymore. We got to get back to it. We've got to rebuild. So we're all doing our best. But lots of positive things happening. You know, like the New Japan stuff coming back. Me joining Bullet Club, which means hopefully everybody can see the opportunity that means for future stuff. PWA getting its regular home back, bigger promotions, other places doing stuff. Like I think it's going to be really good.
And what's the biggest thing? Well, what's one thing you can drop here tonight, Bonza, about for 2023? Like, what have you guys got planned? Is there something you can drop here as a spoiler?
I might get a new shirt.
Fair. Hey, you heard it here first. Bonza getting new merch.
No, a certain type of shirt, bro. A certain type of shirt.
Right. A certain type of shirt. Well, there you go. But look, before we wrap it up, Bonza, I always ask everyone now when we wrap it up one question, and that one question is, what is the one question I didn't ask you on this podcast tonight that you wish I did? And if I had asked you that question, how would you have answered it?
Let me see. What didn't you ask? I don't really know. I can't think of anything on top of my head. Sorry. I think you're pretty thorough. I'm the record breaker of appearances on this show, so I've probably been asked most of the question.
True. I mean, I think we got to get you back. I think the last time you said you wanted to do 5 times so that you could do the Booker T.
Yeah. He won it 6 times though.
Did he?
He won the WCW belt 5 times, and then when he won the WWE belt, he would go and do the 6 times. So.
Hey man, I'm sure we're going to get to 6. But, thank you so much for joining, bro. And everyone, thank you for tuning in live. Thank you for listening afterwards, guys. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, click the links in the bio. I appreciate it. Make sure you go and follow Bonza on social media and also go and follow PWA and make sure you keep up to date with all their shows. Without further ado, guys, we'll catch you next week. Take care. All the best. Peace.